As we move through 2026, expectations around customer experience are evolving at an unprecedented pace. Gen Z, a generation raised in a fully digital environment, has set a new standard for how services should feel instant, intuitive, and deeply personal. While it took decades to progress from dial up internet to basic IVR systems to rule based chatbots, Gen AI has accelerated the transition to intelligent conversational interfaces and real time engagement platforms. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Diyalani. Now, today, being connected with your customer is not enough. Anticipating their needs before they express them is becoming essential. And every interaction is an opportunity to build trust and deliver meaningful value. This level of personalization is now possible through Agentic AI. With advancements in large language models and generative technologies, AI agents are emerging that can reason, solve problems, and make decisions in a way that mirrors human capability. Let's welcome Rajiv Desai, tech head from 1Point1 Solution, to discuss how these systems work in collaboration with people, bringing speed, context, and precision into every customer interaction. Hi, Rajiv, how are you doing?
Hello, Priya. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm doing absolutely fine. Thank you.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast. And of course, we are going to talk a lot about customer experience, role of generative AI, agentic
Mhm.
AI, and how I guess we are progressing in an era where we are moving beyond just voice and chatbots and, ensuring that we are delivering a seamless experience across all touch points in terms of customer engagement. So, let's get started and, talk initially more about 1Point1 solution. And of course, about you as well, Rajiv. You bring a strong expertise in data driven service delivery, customer experience operations with hands on experience in leveraging analytics, digital tools, and performance metrics to drive scalable outcomes. So, we would like to know more about 1Point1 solution, its specialization, as well as about your role and contribution towards the company.
Sure. So, in terms of who we are as 1.1, we are actually in the business of transforming customer experience through AI as a service. Our endeavor is to turn every interaction into an elevated brand experience for our clients. And from a key offering standpoint, we have business process services, we do knowledge process services, we also do IT services, tech transformation, and we have an agentic AI platform that has been indigenously built to support some of these activities. We've always been, thinking in terms of how can we elevate the entire journey or how customer experience has been perceived as using, the human AI combination, sort of a hybrid environment. And that's what I think we're going to be discussing a lot in detail today. As far as I'm concerned, I've spent over 3+ years with 1.1 now. I've led the pre-sales team, transitions, international service delivery, tech transformation, and now I lead the entire AI practice globally for 1.1. In terms of what we've been able to deliver to our clients is we've been I've specifically been instrumental in driving business outcomes. Keeping in mind functionality, and I stress on this word functionality because there's a lot of tech, there's a lot of AI available everywhere in the market, but it needs to be functional, which means that it needs to deliver outcomes not just on paper but in reality. And it also needs to stack up an ROI for our clients. It's scalable, it's available, but keeping it in the right spectrum in terms of how to strike the right balance between human and AI is critical. And we've seen a lot of people struggling to move this into an enterprise grade. But I think we've been successful in terms of deploying this for our clients at scale, and our clients are reaping those benefits today.
Great. Thank you for that overview, Rajiv. And, I appreciate how you highlight the specialized areas basically, and it gives our audience a clear understanding of the value your company brings to the ecosystem. And I think, and with your role also, I think it's at the intersection of strategy and execution. And I think a journey has been pretty much compelling within the company as it mirrors its growth trajectory. With that foundation set in place, Rajiv, I would like to move forward. Now, in today's hyper competitive digital landscape, effective customer engagement has emerged as a defining factor separating market leaders from followers. And I think enterprise AI has evolved beyond simple automation tools that just respond to isolated queries and predetermined answers. Because today's organizations demand intelligent systems that understand the complete context of user interactions, remember the past conversations, and adapt their responses based on the accumulated knowledge or also sometimes real time data. So, what does intelligent, context aware engagement actually mean in practice across channels like voice, chat, email, and even messaging?
Sure. Data is king, and extracting information from data is extremely critical and key. Understanding, the customer interactions across channels, whether it be email, voice, chat, video, is critical to, kind of, or important for organizations to understand the end-to-end context, which helps them decipher the gaps in the channels and their capability to service the customer needs end to end. Meaning, today, if you start a journey on chat, you want to complete that journey on chat. If you start a journey on voice, you want to complete that journey on voice and not move to a different channel. What we've seen is that organizations have not been able to capture that gap in the journeys that they have built, and the customer then moves from one channel to a different channel. And when he moves to a different channel, there is no view of what transpired on the old channel, which creates repetition, frustration, and deterioration of customer experience, or NPS, as we may call it in the world of CX. Now, everyone talks about customer journeys and they want to keep that at the center of everything, but only few have been able to get it right. At 1.1, we challenge the thinking and we take it one step ahead with an outside in approach, meaning that it is not the technology that will decide how the end customers will interact with the brand, but it is the customers who will define the way they want to interact, and we will enable technology to meet those needs. So our solutions, whether it be AI, the tech, the transformation angles that we need to bring in, or the bolt-on solutions that we need to deploy on legacy systems, is driven by how the customers are interacting or want to interact with the brand. And we have so much data. We are speaking to customers at every single point in time, and we are collating this data to understand and implement the CX for the future. Hyper personalization is now possible with AI, and being contextually aware about the customer's ask make the interaction far more meaningful. Customers feel belonged. You can win their trust, make them their promoters. And in our opinion, investments need to be made in getting this context aware ecosystem in place, because there is no better way of driving NPS or CSAT rather than, you might as well get the customer feel far more personal, far more cared about, far more heard, rather than him trying to move from one channel to other.
Definitely, Rajiv. And you, I think, very appropriately broke down what intelligent and context aware engagement should actually look like in practice. And I think what you just mentioned is kind of fundamentally different because organizations need to focus on systems that don't just react, but moreover interpret. We need connected, systems that can
Correct.
bring together data signals across channels to create a single and an evolving view of the customer journey. And then I think that's when you can intelligently devise those experiences for customers. And I think even and the engagement should also feel effortless to the customer as well, though there is a sophisticated orchestration happening behind the scenes across channels. Now, that was very well said, Rajiv. Moving ahead, I mean, when we're talking about AI, I think automation also comes along with it, where businesses today need to automate certain repetitive tasks while also remaining pretty much agile and cost efficient. Now, traditionally, AI automation tools required coding skills, making them pretty much inaccessible to non technical teams. This often created a barrier for marketing, sales, operations, or even HR departments, limiting their ability to streamline processes and improve productivity. Now we have no code AI agents, and they have changed this landscape. These intelligent platforms empower anyone, everyone, regardless of technical expertise, to implement AI workflow automation, without writing a single line of code. So no code and autonomous AI promise faster deployment. How realistic is this for large enterprises, and what problems does it solve compared to the traditional implementations in customer experience journeys?
I think this is where a lot of organizations are, thinking in terms of what to do and how to do it quickly without impacting the end outcomes, right? So it's like a double-edged sword. And the reason I call it is I'll just explain it to you. Now, traditionally, you mentioned that you have a technical team that's building a solution that's going through a testing phase. There is beta testing happening, there is internal testing happening, and then it's kind of going out in the live environment. And there are guardrails and there are protocols that people have put in terms of following that process. Today, with the advent of autonomous agents or ability to develop something on a no code platform is far more quicker and faster. But you also need to understand is that now, because everyone is able to do it, they are wanting to put it out very quickly, and you are somewhere not testing it end to end, keeping in mind saying that because we've built it very quickly, let's just deploy, let's do a test run and kind of do it. So there are various ways in which you need to kind of build the guardrails effectively. Definitely they have helped reduce the time to market, but if you fail to follow the protocols before it is put out in the live environment, you are going to struggle. And doing something using an autonomous agent from a POC standpoint is great, but when you put it into live production or when you deploy it at an enterprise grade, you need to build the infra in the right manner to be able to support it. So there are 4-5 parameters I would typically consider when you're trying to do something like that or comparing it with a traditional CX implementation. One is deployment speed, right? Now, typically earlier it used to take anywhere between 4, 5, 6, 8 months, and sometimes if those were complicated customer journeys, it would have taken up to 18 months for a major deployment to come on board. And in those 18 months, there would be a whole new paradigm shift in what was relevant 18 months back and what is relevant now. So that is traditional CX implementation. Today, you're able to do that in weeks or maybe days if it's a simple use case. And there is definitely efficiency being driven to up to 60, 70, 80% in some use cases. Maintenance, you needed very strong backend teams or development teams for making every tweak. Today, you're able to do that on the front end, and you're able to kind of make those tweaks very quickly to test and run and see how effectively they are being deployed in the real life situation. The context is also very important. What happens is that there is a business SME or someone on the business side who's wanting to drive a particular activity from a deployment standpoint. His time was spent in trying to explain the backend team who doesn't understand operations or doesn't understand the customer journeys. And there used to be loss of thread, if I may call it. Today, with autonomous agents, there is empowerment for the business guy to also build it on his own because he does not need to code anything. He does not need to know coding per se. As long as he knows what he wants to achieve, he will be able to kind of build this on the no code platforms. So there is no gap between the lip and the sip, if I may put it that way. Third, from a scalability standpoint, I think you're able to scale some of these no code platforms pretty quickly. It also provides a lot of flexibility in terms of queries that the platform or the technical teams are able to do. The technical teams still continue to work with the mindset of if then else or decision trees. Now using reasoning models or NLP models allow you far more dynamism in terms of problem solving. So these are 4-5 parameters I think which need to be considered when you're trying to build something on a no code or an autonomous AI platform. At 1.1 specifically, we've been leveraging this to build quick solutions to demonstrate prototypes and do test runs and assess if the value is getting delivered to our client. Sometimes it's a personal opinion that deploying this may yield ROI. But when you actually see it on the ground, the ROI may not stack up. And hence, these allow us to test this quickly without having to spend months on trying to bring it to life. The most critical activity that needs to be kept at the center of everything is to assess and ensure that the ROI needs to stack up, and you can quickly shelve that project if it is not stacking up. So there are tremendous benefits of the no code autonomous AI activities that are there. And we ourselves have built our own indigenous platform to be able to deploy these very quickly in the prototype setup to see whether and commit in terms of what ROI can be achieved by deploying a particular solution, whether it be chat, email, or voice in terms of the channel of interaction.
Yeah, that's a really insightful perspective, Rajiv. And of course, traditionally, customer experience implementations have been long, IT heavy, often taking months and sometimes years before enterprises could see some measurable impact. With no code platforms and autonomous AI systems, we are kind of compressing that cycle dramatically and empowering businesses to experiment, iterate, and deploy without being fully dependent on the engineering bandwidth. And that changes the power dynamic inside large organizations. And I think what makes this exciting is that we are moving from digital transformation being a very structured program to something more which is continuous and adaptive. And I think it's less about implementation and more about orchestration. And that's a kind of fascinating shift in enterprises, I think we will see going forward. Well, that being said, I think when we're discussing about autonomous AI agents, AI has reached a point where, it is driving some real operational impact. However, as organizations begin investing or deploying new AI tools, many struggle to integrate them with the existing customer experience systems. I think whenever you're integrating any kind of new system or a technology, it definitely creates a lot of technical and structural bottlenecks, I feel. And so, when those underlying systems altogether aren't aligned, AI can create more problems than it solves. So, what does real world AI integration look like when, the CX platforms coexist with the existing CRMs or ERPs or the data stacks that organizations currently have?
I think you've brought up the point beautifully well in terms of the integration challenges when you're adding a new layer of AI into the ecosystem, which is not made for AI traditionally, right? Now, what we've done, which has worked specifically well for us, is we've kept a three-layered approach, if I may call it, right? So at the base, you have the foundation layer, which is your legacy CRMs, your ERPs. These remain the source of truth. They have the customer history, they have the inventory, they have the financial data, they have the interactions, they have everything that is required in terms of the database for a customer. But were they built keeping in mind AI? Probably not. Can they process 10,000? Can they process a million transactions instantaneously in a second? Maybe not. And hence, what becomes critical is the next layer, which is the semantic layer, or we may call it like the data lake or the intelligence layer. Now, what it typically does is it tries to collect the cold data from the ERP and converts that data to a warm or a hot searchable context for AI. And this layer ensures that whenever there is a spike, whenever there is multiple queries which are coming in, you do not touch the foundation layer unless required. And this is where organizations are now working towards or will need to work towards to build this layer for seamless interactions and integrations to happen. And the third layer, which is driving this entire thing on the front end, is your interaction layer or your agentic AI ecosystem, or the CX layer, as we may call it. Now, these can be voice bots, chat bots who interact with the user. So we've tried to keep it very simple in terms of following this approach to be able to meet our end objectives. In fact, for one of the recent transitions that we did on Agentic, we worked with our clients hand in glove to basically build this from scratch. And now when they are going to scale up, it is going to work seamlessly for them to kind of meet the demands in their sector. The other thing that you also need to keep in mind is we typically call it the last mile challenges. These are latencies that can come in. You need to plan for concurrencies, you need to build your infrastructure to be able to support. And it's like you're as fast as the slowest engine or the slowest car in the fleet. So you need to ensure that you are planning your infrastructure in a way that you're able to scale it in the right fashion. Any bottlenecks that you will have or any roadblocks that you will hit there is going to impact the overall performance of the agentic system that you're going to be deploying.
Definitely. And I think with what you have highlighted, I think it sparks an important shift where, we're shifting from system-centric architecture to more experience-centric architecture. So instead of asking how do we plug AI into our stack, the better question should be how do we orchestrate our stack around the customer journey using AI as the connective tissue. And I think it really grounds AI transformation in operational reality rather than just vision. And I think when all of these systems are put together in the right way, it's more about orchestrating intelligence across the customer journey.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other side of the same coin is something that I would like to focus our attention on, because deploying context-aware AI in enterprises, requires high amount of attention to privacy and security protocols as well. It's crucial to establish precise access restrictions, ensuring users view only data pertinent to their roles. And this involves leveraging robust encryption techniques and secure data management practices to protect sensitive organizational information. So, what governance guardrails are essential to ensure that AI enhances trust rather than, eroding it in the customer engagement?
So, the biggest risk of automated decisioning, and everyone wants it fast and quick, right, is the black box problem that we call, and which is making a decision without a clear why. And that is the trust and governance guardrail that needs to be built in. So, what organizations will need to do is they need to build an observability layer. If, say, for example, an automated system or an AI denies a refund or flags a transaction as fraud or maybe something else, it should provide a traceability log to the human supervisor or the human in the loop sort of an activity, ensuring that the decision that was made can be backtracked and you remain compliant and ethical to the broad guardrails that you put around that. Second guardrail, and the most important one, is you need to ground your knowledge management, which is your RAG. So AI should be deployed in a manner which is prohibiting it to be creative in answers. If I was able to kind of convey the message, it must verify the response based on the knowledge source which is available to it and only on factual statement, because do note that it's a pre-trained model and it has the ability to answer something. You ask it anything, it will give a response. So keeping it grounded is going to be very critical. And the third layer, which is there, is always have a dynamic escalation methodology, which is keep human in the loop. So if you're dealing with automating a process using AI agents for a complaints queue or for some critical information being passed on to the customer, have a human in the loop. Drive efficiency 70%, 60%, 80%, whatever the use case is allowing you to do that. But make sure that you follow these three protocols to be able to ensure that whatever is getting out of your ecosystem is 100% right and it is as per what the customer requires. So that's my view and our view in terms of how the governance and the guardrails need to be put. More and more laws are now coming into play, making it more secured, more compliant. So that's evolving every day. And I think it's in all our interest to ensure that we build these guardrails and data privacy norms to ensure that the customer's data or PII information continues to remain safe and secure.
Right, and I think it's very important to ensure effective guardrails where, in an environment where AI adoption is accelerating faster than the governance frameworks are evolving. And I think eventually, in terms of customer engagement, I think trust is a very competitive differentiator. Companies that get governance right won't just mitigate risk, they will eventually strengthen loyalty, brand credibility, and customer lifetime value. In your response, you also mentioned about keeping human in the loop, Rajiv. So, of course, customer expectations are evolving as the tech scenario is also evolving. They want hyper personalized services as a baseline and, not like a bonus experience, I think. So the shift is prompting many CX leaders to rethink their strategies and explore more intelligent and connected approaches. So, what advice would you give to enterprises that are aiming to adopt AI in the customer experience without losing the human touch? Or how do we ensure the human in the loop while also balancing innovation?
So the human touch is here to stay, and we need to visualize ourselves as the recipients of what you as a customer want. And that will most of the times give you the right answer, because if you were the customer or on the receiving end of how you want a brand to interact with you, you will probably get majority of the times the customer journey right. The other thing what we should not do is, those traditional, when IVR started to come into play, those were these DTMF IVRs which were there, right? You keep pressing the keys endlessly for your query to get resolved and something to come out as a response. Clients deployed this to save cost, and they were trying to avoid being in front of the customer when they wanted something very critical, urgent, and important. Look at driving efficiency at the back end. Understand why your customers are reaching out to you. Use AI to fix upstream and downstream issues and eliminate inefficiency. Do not use AI to not speak to your customers or not front end them. AI should enrich customer experience to make the brand feel more closer to what the customer needs are rather than avoiding them, is what I would advise the enterprises to look at, rather than only and only trying to put a tool which will take them far away from the realities of the ground.
Pretty crisp, Rajiv. And yes, I completely agree with you that we need to focus more on augmentation over substitution. And, where AI is handling all the inefficiencies and taking care of data heavy or some repetitive tasks, I think human can, probably be there to listen deeply and solve complex issues and build emotional resonance. And that's where even brands and companies can bring and ensure long-term loyalty with their customers. And I think the conversation has shifted from whether AI can handle tasks to how broadly and effectively it can be applied. The reality is that human AI collaboration is the engine that will drive your AI. So, one last question for you, Rajiv, is looking ahead, what does the future of human AI collaboration and customer experience look like, according to you?
So, in my mind, the combination is lethal to personalize experiences, right? So, humans, by being a social animal, have EQ, which is emotional quotient. Obviously, there is IQ there, but with AI coming into play, the IQ can be superlative in terms of taking the decision on how to service. Both of this coming together to meet the end customer needs is a fantastic combination. At 1.1, we are bringing a smile to the last mile of the customer journey, where our domain specific intelligence turns the friction of legacy support into the fluid, intuitive experiences of tomorrow. And we are super excited to see how the next phase of CX unfolds from here on, with human and AI collaboration coming into play.
Very well said, Rajiv. And I think eventually artificial intelligence has stormed the corporate agenda, but its impact remains uneven. Nowhere is this clearer than in customer experience, where enterprises have poured money into automation yet struggle to see consistent returns. The next leap forward will not come from replacing humans with machines. It will come from a more powerful shift, that is human and AI learning, working, and improving together. Thank you so much, Raji, for taking on the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that customer experience will not be defined by AI replacing people. It will be defined by how effectively enterprises design for humans and AI to improve each other and to ensure that they are adopting a robust AI systems ethically with effective governance guardrails in place. And leaders who focus here will unlock AI's long promised value. Thank you so much for your insights. It was lovely chatting with you.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, Priya.
Thanks, Rajiv. This is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around the role of AI in customer engagement. How are we surviving, and what leaders should keep in mind in terms of adopting AI specifically for customer engagement, and how does the future look like? Stay tuned for upcoming podcast, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.